Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Hunter. I'm the Executive Director of the Morris County Economic Development Corporation. So thank you for joining us today for this webinar, which I know I'm really looking forward to. So just a little bit of background on the EDC. We are a public-private partnership with the Board of Chosen Freeholders of Morris County. We're a division of the Chamber of Commerce. And we also have our own members, which a lot of people don't know. So we have about 80 member organizations. I see a few familiar faces. So if you're interested in membership, you can visit our website, which is morriscountyedc.org, or speak with me. So we are, as I mentioned, a division of the Chamber, and we're having this event in partnership with MAIN, which is the Morris Area Automated Information Network. And this is our first time having this joint event today, so I'm pleased to present the webinar and in-person seminar, Start, Manage, and Grow Your Business with ReferenceUSA. MAIN is the cost-sharing cooperative with Morris County area libraries. And I would also like to thank ReferenceUSA, which has generously provided lunch today, and also our sponsors, Triple Win Sales, and a Strategic Events Group. Anna Raker and Laura Ali are here today, so thank you very much. The seminar is being offered both in person and webinar. For those of you who are on the webinar, we cannot hear you, but you can hear us, so please raise your hand in the webinar program if you have a question or need to get our attention. Robert Wanhouse, the Economic Development Manager, will be monitoring the screen. So our first presenter today is Rachel Durkin of Paradigm Marketing and Design, which is an award-winning firm. She is also a very active chamber member. Let me give you a little bit of background on Rachel. She has a degree from Fairleigh Dickinson University in marketing and a master's in business administration. She began her career at Pfizer and then moved to the nonprofit sector, worked for the United Way of Bergen County. At age 24, she left to launch her own full-time consulting firm, which has been very successful. And she says she's able to see the big picture needs of B2B and B2C organizations, identify best practices for developing and communicating marketing messages to specific audiences through various media platforms. So following Rachel's presentation and interactive session, we will hear from TJ Pradell with ReferenceUSA, and he will be hosting an interactive lead generation marketing seminar catering to Morris County businesses to accommodate the needs of business owners, sales, and marketing representatives, and also job seekers. The Morris Automated Information Network offers the service ReferenceUSA, which is an online provider of business and consumer research. ReferenceUSA helps library users create effective marketing plans, conduct essential competitive analysis, raise funds, and locate people in order to expand and grow their book of business. The online database provides real-time access to more than 45 million businesses and 271 million customers. So this database can be accessed for free with your library card. So before we begin, I would like to turn the program over to Phil Berg, who's the Executive Director of MAIN, and he can explain how to get a library card. So thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you all for being here today and for the Chamber for hosting us and everything else. I know you're actually here to talk to these two fine people, so I'll keep this very brief. Show of hands, how many people live in New Jersey? Okay, if you live in New Jersey, go to your local library and get your library card. That's all you need to get this, assuming you don't already have it. I hope you do. If you do not live in New Jersey, show of hands. Well, that's okay. But if you do not live in New Jersey, or you have a friend who doesn't live in New Jersey but works here, just go to your local library where you work. And more often than not, it depends on library to library, but you usually can get some kind of library card. It may not have complete access to all of the collections, but you should be able to use that barcode to get into ReferenceUSA. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over, but I will be here afterwards if you have any questions about ReferenceUSA, libraries, or anything.
And if you didn't know, you can actually download digital copies digital content from the web, from the library, from the comfort of your own home. So there are a lot of things you can actually do now remotely. You don't actually have to physically go to the library.
That is true. E-books, e-magazines, all sorts of great stuff. But I won't shill for that right now.
Okay. All right. We're ready for you, Rachel. Please, take it away.
So I am in marketing, so the first thing we're going to do is take a selfie, and we're going to put it on social media so everybody looks like you're having an amazing time. You don't look like you're having an amazing time. Yeah, all right. Look at this. Yeah, I want some arms up. Come on. Yeah, look. All right, good. That'll be on later. I'll tag all of you. Okay. And also, Philip, I'll have you know that I got my first library card 2 weeks ago when I started this presentation, and it's blowing my mind stuff that you're able to do with this library card. I had no idea. Okay, so today we're talking about how to leverage data to grow your business. So how many people in the room are business owners? Okay, or major decision makers in the business? I mean, don't look so excited. You guys are like, no. So the rest of you are just here to, what?
I'm on free lunch.
Free lunch. Okay, got it. Definitely why Brad is here. You heard about it. Okay. So first thing I want to talk about really quickly is why we're so amazing, because I am in marketing, but Megan already talked a little bit about our background. I'm really excited. I was just announced the top 25 brand builders for 2017, and the reason I'm sharing that with you, thank you for the thumbs up, Brad, and everybody else wants to look excited. Like, that's really impressive. Thank you. The energy is amazing. The reason I'm saying that is because we do have a pretty relevant background in marketing, and at least some people think we know what we're talking about, so hopefully you listen to me to an extent today. My husband sure does it, but that's okay. All right, so the first thing about data, it's 12:15, okay. The first thing about data, why do you want to do data-driven decisions? Does anybody, besides the obvious, say yes? Why should you use data to make business decisions?
So you don't waste time on unqualified.
That's a great one, and we're going to talk more about that. But so actually, Harvard, MIT, and McKinsey did a study on this, and they asked 330 companies, and they started following them around to see how they made their decision-making process. And they asked them questions about technology and management, and they gathered different data. And what they found was the companies that characterized themselves as data-driven were 5% more productive and 6% more profitable year over year, and which measured increase in stock value. So to me, I think it's an obvious on that you have to make data decisions, but the question is what decisions do you make with data, and how do you make them? So there's actually a lot of types of data. The two that I'm going to brush on today are consumer data and demographic data. So anybody want to give me an idea of what an example of demographic data would be? Census data, yes, exactly. So anything that's related to population, race, income, and that's what you're going to get from ReferenceUSA. But it'll also tell you things that kind of go into the behavioral realm, like how people make buying decisions or what types of things that they like to buy with their credit card or online. And also anything about household demographic, which can be really great for consumers as well. But what I was impressed with ReferenceUSA, and TJ is going to go over it, is a lot of how many of you here are B2B marketers, business to business? Okay, and how many are B2C? A couple. You just raise your hand all for all of them.
Because I do both, which is bad.
So we're going to talk about both. But then, does anybody want to give me an example of behavioral data? Nobody?
I buy a new car every other year.
Okay, yes. So a cause and effect, right? What are buying trends? What do you like to do? That is, you know this thing called the internet? They're following everything you do. The other day I bought I was looking up raincoats because it was raining and I did not have a coat. And for the last 2 days, all I see on social media and on my Google is ask for raincoats. Mm-hmm. How do they know? Who knows? The point is that it really helps with the consumer buying habits.
And even if we say it now, right?
And even if you say it out loud, Siri or Alexa, no, it's creepy. Okay, so we're going to focus mostly on demographic data today, but I just wanted to touch on behavioral because of the importance of it in marketing. But so the first is businesses. So the types of things that we want to consider in demographic data would be like age, income, gender. So a great example of this is I have a client that is a jewelry store. And they're in West Orange, and we know, on average, most users don't go more than 10-mile radius for a jewelry store. Now we wanted to run a Mother's Day campaign. What do you think the type of things that we would want to look up for that, for consumers within a 10-mile radius of West Orange?
age, number of children, income level, reduced purchasing.
Yeah. How about if there's two spouses in the household that are together because, you know, dad got to buy some mommy something for Mother's Day? So I'll digress, but now it's showing trends for younger millennials. They're just going to buy things themselves, but that's a different story. So, so business allocation is a little bit different. You want to consider things like, you looked up, I said, God? Okay. Things like revenue, number of employees. So, Chip, I'm going to pick on you because I know your business really well. So Chip's target audience, he has three target audiences. So we'll talk about the small business community. So he wants people with a sales team, right? So this type of demographic data is going to be able to be pulled and see what somebody's revenue is, the industry they're in, and then type of how many salespeople are on their team or the number of employees they have for that. Now, the thing to remember with business data, though, is who makes the decisions in buying decisions in the company.
It varies. It could be purchasing or...
But it's always a person,
yes.
Right? So while you have to do demographic data for businesses to figure out the industry or the size of business you want to go after, you also want to take it a step further with client DNA and really get an understanding of who the decision maker is for buying decisions and what, on a personal level, they're like. How old are they? What's their gender? Do they have kids in their household? What do they like to do for fun? Because these things these are the people who are buying from you, so at the end of the day, it all comes down to people. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody disagree with that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. That's good. Okay. So what I want to do really quickly before we dive into it is like a quick brainstorming session, and TJ I've recruited to use the magic whiteboard. Does anybody want to give me some ideas of what they would use data for decision making?
Target market.
Okay. Identifying your target market or reaching your target market?
Both.
Okay. Thank you, Chip. Anybody else?
Content topics like my blog. What do I talk about?
Great idea. And that would also be behavioral data because you could use surveys to collect that information from your target audience.
Product development.
Okay.
Product or service development, what's needed.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that. Anybody else?
How to segment your market before you pick the target.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that helps you increase your ROI, right?
Yeah.
Olin? Any more? They were all said.
Who are the competitors?
That's great. Competitive data, information about who's around.
Actually, also environmental analysis, like what's going on in politics, what's coming up in technology that could affect your business. That environmental scan.
Yeah. Okay, those are all good ones. Yeah, think of another one. Raise your hand. Can you guys? If you can't hear me in the webinar, make sure you're chatting with Robert and letting him know. Am I talking loud enough? Okay. So we're going to go over these four. A lot of them were said in this, but we're going to go over these four data-driven decisions specifically at the moment. So the first thing I want you all to do is take a look at. You all should have a worksheet in front of you. And I have to give credit to C3 Workplace. They're a strategic partner of ours, and I stole this borrowed, and I asked permission, this worksheet from them. But in any business, whether you're a new business, an established business, or a growing business, and we do this every quarter. I make my team do it. They hate me. We take a hard look at who our target audience is. Because it changes based on your service, based on the industry, based on competitors. Your audience is going to change constantly. So if we could just take 2 minutes, I want you to all look through this and maybe see if you can fill out the worksheet to your best of your ability. Because when you're identifying your target audience, the first thing you want to do is subjective. You know your audience best, or you have an idea of who you should go after. But after that, you have to back it up with data. So I'm just going to give you guys about 30 seconds to briefly go over this, but it's a tool that I would definitely recommend diving into a little bit further.
Okay. And yeah, for the people on the webinar, this worksheet that people are working on is also on the GoToWebinar platform under docs, like documents, and I emailed it to you as well. So.
And just a note, the reason psychographics is so important, and I'm sure Chip would preach this all day long, right? But people make decisions in 3 ways. Thank you, Sandler Training. You want to tell us those 3 ways, Chip?
I'll let you do it.
I don't know if I remember. No, okay, so there's a surface pain, right? You have an initial problem, and then they have financial pain and then emotional pain. And so at the end of the day, you're making a real sale based on emotional pain. So by understanding psychographics, you're starting to help uncover what somebody's emotional pain might be. And you can leverage that in your marketing strategy and in your sales strategy. Did I nail it?
Did?
That sounded smart, right? Yeah. I came up with that on my own.
Yeah.
All right. Now, as you guys look at this, how many of you are having difficult time filling this out? Like it's not just flowing out of you. Okay, so what are you finding difficult? That you don't know your audience, or that?
My audience is all different because you're printing to so many different industries. One is I can pick an industry.
Did you change your hair again? You're blowing my mind. Okay.
I did.
Every time I meet you, you have a different color. It looks lovely.
I know. It's just I'm in that stage.
Okay.
Always trying.
I digress.
It's okay. Next time I meet you, I'll be green.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
So what I'm really finding is I'm taking this and I'm trying to identify what you're doing next.
Mm-hmm.
So with everything that we're going to be talking about, I'm very interested in annual revenue, income, budget. A lot of those I can answer, but a lot of those I can't depending on my industry.
So I'm glad you said that, because one thing you want to consider is you're going to want to photocopy this sheet and have as many different sheets as you are target audiences. And I tend to couple target audience by service line. For example, we offer web design services, we offer branding services, we offer outsourced marketing services. The client that will use us for outsourced marketing support is not necessarily going to be the exact same client or audience that's going to use us for web work. So we actually have multiple segmented audiences, and they might overlap. They're all business owners, but their needs are going to vary. So you actually want to fill this out as many times as needed in order to kind of clump people into stereotypes or groups. So I'm going to jump ahead because it's going to give you some more ideas on how to do this exercise. But so the one thing I always say in a marketing strategy is don't assume that you know what your target audience wants. That's the biggest mistake every client I work with has. They think they know what their audience wants. They position their message in a certain way, and it turns out nobody had a conversation with the audience or did their research, and they made an assumption that was incorrect, and it lost them a lot of money. So the first thing that I always recommend is taking a look at your current client DNA. Think of your top 10 clients. And you can also segment it, to your point. We could do your top 3 clients in one area, your top 3 clients in another area, and try to mimic that as best you can, right? So think of the ones that give you the most revenue or the highest profit, they're the easiest to work with, and write those down, because that's who you want more of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? I mean, no, everybody wants to work really hard for less money. Brad, so Brad, you do want to do that.
He was shaking yes to the first question.
Okay, no, Brad's not. All right, so the first thing is take a look at who you currently work with. Now, some of you might say, well, I'm moving into a new market segment, or I'm starting my business, and I don't necessarily have that. That's great. Why don't you go ahead and take a look at your competition? And so that's where this data, and we're going to show you more about how you can pull competitive data in a minute, but that's where this data is going to come in handy. So there's 3 ways I recommend that you start by looking at your competition. The first one is checking out their website. A lot of companies will list their clients on their website, or their best clients on their website. So you want those to be your best clients too, right? The second is to take a look at their LinkedIn pages. If you know your competition, make sure you're connecting with them on LinkedIn and check out who else they're working with. But then the third, and if you want, this takes it to the extreme, but I highly recommend it, is you can do a concept of a secret shopper. So calling them up, telling them that you're interested, you're learning more about their services, and ask them who they work with. It's a simple phone call. And you get a lot of really good information on how they position themselves and who they're working with that way. So that's a subjective way of going about this, but then also I'm going to show you in a moment how you can find different data on your competition through ReferenceUSA. So then you also want to think demographics, behavior, and that's all data-based. And then the last thing I'm going to say is once you fill out this sheet, you have to take a hard look at it, at all the different segments. You know, you might have 5 different target audiences you're going after. Make sure that there is an opportunity, a revenue stream there, and an opportunity to capitalize on this audience. Because I have had clients come and say, well, this is a great niche market. Well, that's great. There's only 10 people in it. And you need 100 customers a year to be profitable. So you want to really ask yourself those questions. So this is a great example. Now, there's a couple nonprofits in the room, right? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Thank you. Okay. I mean, you guys should be really proud of that. So this is an example of a chart I pulled for, I wanted to know, in New Jersey, what was the likelihood of somebody making a charitable donation to a nonprofit? And these are individual donors. And this is that you can pull these really cool charts in ReferenceUSA. And I was actually really surprised by it, that most people who donate are 45 to 65 years old. That's who donates the most money. So now if you're a nonprofit and you want to run an appeal letter or in a campaign to people that you don't know, this is a great opportunity. You know this is who you should be targeting, right? People at the very top of that chart right there, because that's going to help you with your ROI, right? Any questions on that? I also have a theory for why it plummets at 65, but we'll talk about that later.
Where do you get that data?
ReferenceUSA.
What? Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? No, I think it's because they're retiring and they're going from online paycheck giving to giving. Yeah. Okay. So the second way to use data is for operations. So assume that you're a daycare center, for example, and you know that most of your clients are going to stay within a 10-mile radius. Hang on, I'm way behind on my slide notes here. Okay. So most of your clients, you know that they need a household income of, let's just say, $150,000. It's a good reference, and you want at least one child. And you're thinking about either opening up a new location or you want to see how your other competitors are doing in the area. So I pulled a chart of Florham Park daycare centers, and it pulls up all of the local centers in the town. So now I can see a list of my competition. But what I thought was really cool is you can take it a step further, and you can see information about, like, demographic information about your competitors. So what was their revenue last year? How many employees do they have? When were they established? So now you know, okay, well, should I open a daycare here, or is it too competitive? Or are all my competitors not getting the type of revenue that I expect to get? What's wrong with the area? So there's some really good questions to ask. The one thing I want to bring up with data, and I'll probably talk about it later too, is that the data is really helpful in decision making, but it's not the end decision, right? So you have to anticipate, well, why are things happening a certain way? So we're going to get ahead in just a second on that. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So this is an example of the sales volume by year, and I actually had a question for TJ. Maybe you can answer it later while it plummeted down to 0. I'm assuming the data's not in yet. Maybe.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so smart. Okay. So, but it shows over time the different sales volumes of competitors. So you can see how somebody is growing based on the market. And I don't know if ReferenceUSA can do this, but you can export the data. And what I would do is start comparing sales volume of all your competitors in the area so you can see if there's trends over time based on economic factors that you talked about. And then you can decide if you want to make a decision on business changes based on that. Okay. Now this is my favorite part. You can pull in your expenses of all other businesses in the area. So you can see how much somebody spent on advertising, insurance, legal and accounting last year. So, I mean, does anybody have any idea off the top of their head how they would use this information?
This is information about my competitors,
Yeah.
you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
Budgeting.
Or a prospect.
Or a prospect.
Yeah.
Budgeting.
So if I want to walk in and I know that my budget's going to be $20,000, I might have a problem. There might be a disconnect between these people, right, in a budget conversation if they're a prospect. But it also helps me take a look. Let's say I want to open a new business or expand and have a business plan. I can see how much my competitors are spending on certain amounts and anticipate that charge as well. Brad?
How does this data get in there? Is it tax returns?
That's a TJ question. It just magically appears in my book.
Right.
I'll just hold that for later. Okay.
I'll remember.
Somebody, an elf sneezed on it, and it came to be. Okay. All right. So, oh no, I'm good. Okay, so different ways to use it in marketing campaigns. So to Regina's point earlier, who does the spaghetti effect for marketing? Just throw spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks. Brad, thank you for admitting that. Okay. Anybody else? The rest of you are clear. Okay, good. I like the honest people in the room. And how much spaghetti do you lose? A lot of spaghetti. Yeah, okay, this metaphor is just killing it. Okay, so most of it. So by having targeted data, you can make sure, for example, the jewelry store example I sent, you're not just sending a general direct mail campaign to zip codes. You're targeting people that you know would need your service. And it's going to increase. So you're spending $20,000 in a direct mail campaign. You know that you're going to get a better ROI return because you're targeting the right people, right? So it also helps you make sure you're focusing on the right audience. So we talked about the nonprofit that was going after the appeal letter. Well, maybe we shouldn't be targeting. Everybody wants to go after millennials right now, but clearly millennials are not the place to go if you're trying to bring in new revenue for your nonprofit based on that chart. So you're going to change your message based on who you're talking to. But you can also help determine traditional marketing as well, billboard placements, direct mail, email campaigns. You can buy the emails on ReferenceUSA of the people that you want to go after.
Do you recommend that? Because they say don't buy email.
So that's a loaded question. It depends. So for the most part, yeah, it's really hard to keep the email accurate. Like on average, addresses stay relevant longer, and emails change a lot. But it depends if you're trying to do a blanket brand, like a brand awareness campaign. I don't know if I would do a direct ROI campaign based on email. It totally depends. Yeah.
Why does everybody want to go after millennials?
I just hear that a lot. Because they're actually, studies show that they're going to have the greatest spending power in the next 10 years. So everybody's trying to get ahead of it.
And they're paying a lot more attention to their money right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're changing the whole trend. We're getting off topic, but we're changing the whole trend of how people are buying in industry. Like the wine industry is skyrocketing and the beer industry is plummeting because millennials like to drink wine over beer. It sounds silly, but Budweiser's having a problem with it. Okay, so another great campaign is this comes into behavioral a little bit data, but for example, as a web development company, I can look up privately held businesses that make $500,000 to $5 million in revenue who do not have a website. So that's awesome for me. Like you would think, hey Rachel, you should run that search and just do a direct mail campaign to all of those people, right? I mean, right?
Well,
yeah, or something.
Maybe.
Outreach.
It's a start. So this is where it came in where you don't always want to just blindly follow data, right? Because what it found by industry when I searched that information was that most of those people are physicians and surgeons, and then followed by dentists and real estate. Now, I have a number of healthcare provider clients. However, a majority of them tend to be practices under another umbrella, like Summit Medical Group, Barnabas Health. So me reaching out to them when they clearly do not need a website is a waste, right? So you want to take a look at the data and think really seriously, well, is this going to work for my audience? So my inclination would probably be to go after attorneys and then maybe general contractors. They're also, like, sometimes they vary as well depending on who they're working for. Does that make sense to everybody? So my caution with this data is that it's a really valuable tool, but don't just blindly follow it.
And you can break it down by the codes.
You can break it down by the code. So then I could search, I could widen the search, and I could go after attorneys. So I thought this was really interesting, and that's the majority of the people who don't have a website, and that makes sense to me. Any questions? No? Okay. So going back just for a second about, let's say that before we're looking at it as a competitor, but now we're looking at it as a prospect, and I mentioned how, like for example, saying the advertising budget is a really valuable tool. But I have to tell you from now on, I am no longer going on any sales meeting unless I'm looking at this number first, right? Because it's giving me an idea of how to approach the client and where they're spending the money and where they find value. Isn't this exciting, Chip?
Can you see this for an individual company?
Yeah,
Can you drill
this
down?
is an individual company.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I know your head is exploding.
Yeah,
I can see how thrilled you are. Okay.
I just got to find out where they got the
all
data.
night long, knowing who you're going to talk to tomorrow, and all night long you're just researching all the ones that you're studying for the next day.
Well, I mean, I'm only seeing like 5 people today, so I wasn't going to fit all night long, but yes, like an hour is a good. But it gives me really good data on how they're thinking too.
Okay.
And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can look up the company owners by name, and then you can go research them and their interests through ReferenceUSA.
But this data is all self-reported, right? Because if they're not a public company, unless they're a public company.
Yes and no. Some of it's self-reported, some of it's not. A lot of them come from public filings, like Secretary of State filings, SEC exchanges, phone books.
So do you find in your experience, like, that advertising number is pretty accurate? Like, if you were...
I think that some of the data, I think that most of the data is accurate. I think there's inaccuracies to a point. So
Well, why don't I just address that?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
so
I'm not qualified.
all of these expenditure reports are modeled, unless it's a public company. Public company, they legally have to disclose their sales revenue figures and spending through their annual findings every year. Private companies don't. So our modeling comes from economic census. U.S. Department of Commerce provides averages to us, and then our economists actually come up with an algorithm that'll estimate what the expenditures are going to be. So take it with a grain of salt, but for the most part, they're generally accurate.
Okay. So the one thing I wanted to touch upon was heat maps, which I thought was really cool, is that you can look up. So let's say I decided that I wanted to pull the industry data from attorneys without a website in the area. And now, because attorneys don't have a website, they might not be as digitally savvy as I'd like them to be. So it's very likely that going after them on a digital strategy is not helpful, right? But they might, you know, it's likely that they're going to be, traditional marketing, they're going to be more receptive to it, so placements, running ads. So this is going to help me make decisions not only on placements of general, like billboards, for example, but also what, let's say I want to do a media campaign, what magazine distribution or publication distribution is going to be in this red area that I want to reach. So you can take it down a step. So the media company will say, oh, this is going to reach 50,000 people. Well, that's great. Are they all right here? Because that's what I want. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the last that I'm going to talk about in the few minutes that I have is consumer behavior. So this is kind of the merge of the lifestyle marketing and or behavioral data and the demographic data. I thought it was really interesting that ReferenceUSA allows you to pull likes and dislikes that they pull from credit card information. So for example, I did a search of people who, NJ residents who made a purchase of a family or travel product, and it gave me 1.3 million results. So then once I'm there, I can drill down on these individuals, each individual person, and I can see what other things they like to do. I can see their average income level. So you can filter the data multiple ways, but you can see what people have tendencies to buy on. So for example, one of the categories was general health and exercise. So if I'm a gym or I'm doing isogenics or something like that, I can pull, I know these people are health conscious and they're interested in the product that I have to offer. And there's multiple categories that I encourage you to check out because it's not just B2C information. Any questions so far? Okay. So the one thing that I don't want to get too off topic, but I wanted to take it 2 steps further, or 1 step further in 2 ways. So the one, actually Carolyn from my company suggested this, and I thought it was a great idea, but one thing you can do is leverage social media lookalike campaigns for this type of data. Does anybody know what a lookalike campaign is on social media? Anybody want to guess? I should have brought candy. I would throw it at you. Okay. A lookalike campaign is I can pull a report of all the people that I know are in my target audience, and then I can upload that to Facebook or Twitter. I'm sorry, Facebook or LinkedIn. And instead, how many of you are aware that on Facebook and LinkedIn you can run ads based on targeted marketing, right? Mm-hmm. But in that case, you have to say, okay, I want to talk to women who are getting married who are 25 to 30 years old, and you're hoping you're right, right? Mm-hmm. When you're doing a lookalike, you can upload those 10 top clients you have that I mentioned, or the DNA for the client DNA for them, and it will pull reports of people who look like that, who have the same similar demographic information. Oh. So it really helps you really narrow down your target audiences and make sure you're reaching the right people on social media. So you can do that either by just entering. So also, like, we're doing a lookalike campaign right now for everybody who likes our page on Facebook. So if they like our page, I can do a lookalike campaign to reach out to other people who have the same demographic of people who like our page. But you can also use this database to pull that information exactly and upload it into social media.
So just to back up a second, so you're running a lookalike campaign, and you go to, what does Facebook prompt you to enter different data or criteria, like usually like 5 categories to enter this information, or do you actually just upload this from reference media? Like, how do you get the data to Facebook or LinkedIn so that they can run the campaign?
You know what I'll do? If you email me later, I'll send you like screenshots with examples of how to do it, or I'll talk to Jess.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you do something similar like that to employers instead of just individuals? Because
give me an example.
Target employers to be able to promote our training program.
Yes, and actually, with LinkedIn, you can use Sales Navigator. Have you heard of that? So that's like, okay, so we'll talk after this too. So Sales Navigator is a whole different strategy you can leverage for LinkedIn similar to this, but I only have 3 minutes, so we'll talk right afterwards. So the other opportunity is combining external with internal data, right? So you as a company in the wonderful world of the World Wide Web have a lot of data that you might not be using efficiently. So things like if you use Constant Contact or MailChimp, open rates, Google Analytics, which is a free tool on your website, social media analytics, all of that is really powerful information to see how people are using your information in a certain way. So one thing that you want to consider is, let's say you're going to run an email drip campaign. Does everybody know what that is? It's like where it's like if then functions, if somebody interacts this way, then that way. You can set that up on Constant Contact for a very affordable cost. It's a really easy tool to use. But let's say you want to pull, I want to pull demographic data of, or I'm in the men's hair salon, so I'm going to do consumer data and I'm going to purchase the emails. I'm going to send it to them, and then I'm going to leverage my Constant Contact to see what the open rates are based on information and what the demographic is, right? So you can actually take it a step further with combining your internal data with the external data. So does anybody have any questions? No.
We have about 2 minutes.
Okay, so I talk about Sales Navigator really quick. Has anybody used Sales Navigator? A couple people. Okay, so Sales Navigator is a great paid tool that you can use on LinkedIn. I think it's $50 a month.
$79.
They're really cranking it up, huh?
Yeah,
but
since
really,
IBM bought them.
Oh well, how it goes. They had a nice transition there. It's awful. So Sales Navigator is a tool that you can pay about $80 a month for, and you can search all of your target audience by industry, title, company size, location, anything you can think of. You can even do keywords. And what it's going to do is you're going to be able to pull a report of all of the connections you have that fit that criteria, and it will show you up to 4 ways how you're connected to them. So I might say, okay, my target audience is Regina. Well, Regina's connected to Chip, who's connected to Megan, and I can see how the connection works. So then there's 2 things I can do. I can reach out to Chip, who's going to reach out to Megan, who's going to get Regina for me. Or I can run an in-mail campaign to reach out to her directly and ask her to connect with me. Usually what I do, and I'm going off on a tangent, but I have a few minutes, is we set up campaigns where we might have a valuable tool, a checklist, a white paper, something of relevance, and we will send that to our target, the people that we're trying to connect with that we know in our target audience, in the hopes of getting a connection and then a sit-down meeting. And that usually tends to work depending on the audience at different rates, but it allows you to create new relationships with people, and you're not doing a direct outreach like, hey, sit down, I want to sell something to you. You're saying, I have this free tool in your industry, I thought it would be of value to you. And then people are more likely to connect with you. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to switch it over to TJ now, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
But just a reminder for the people on the webinar, you have a chat box on the bottom that you can type whatever question you want. Rachel's still here, so if you have any questions for her or for TJ during his presentation, just write it down. Oh, yeah. Just want to get you as close to this. I'll speak audibly. Okay. Perfect.
Hello, everyone. My name is TJ Friedel. I work with a company called Info Group. Came all the way from Omaha, Nebraska to see you lovely people. So it's nice to be here today. For those who are on the webinar, to give you a visual depiction of who's talking right now, it's a guy with a hand wrap, with his mouth bleeding because he dry shaved in the car as a hot mess coming on over here. So that's who's going to teach you about data today. A little bit of background. Info Group is, or I guess ReferenceUSA is owned by a company named Info Group. We're a mass data compiler on business and consumer information. Our data primarily helps the small to medium-sized business market in identifying who their vertical market is, who is most likely to buy your products and services, either B2B or B2C. We've got information on 49 million U.S. businesses and 270 million U.S. consumers, and then we put you in touch with those individuals who are most likely to buy your products. We started around 1974. It originally was a guy who was just collecting phone books. He wasn't a crazy person by any means. He did have an intended use for that. White pages and yellow pages, he would collect names, addresses, and phone numbers. Whenever businesses needed any sort of sales leads, he would give that over to them. Since then, we've expanded quite a bit. Now we are collecting from over thousands of different sources on the business side and hundreds of different sources on the consumer side. All the information you're going to find in the database is free of charge. So once again, I'll reiterate the point that Phil was making. Get your library card. Once you have your library card, all you need to do is get on the library website, find where they host the link to ReferenceUSA, and then it'll prompt you to put in your library card number. You'll have full access to our database from there.
Courtesy of the state of New Jersey.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. The state pays for this. essentially this is what your tax dollars is going to, so we want you to use this database.
So it doesn't matter what county you have a library card with?
Does not matter. As long as it's in the state of New Jersey, you've got access to this. Yeah.
The data on the businesses, is it the same as, say, like a Dun & Bradstreet?
It's like apples and oranges. They're very similar to us. They specialize more in like public company information, whereas we kind of pride ourselves on the marketing side. So if you're looking to do research into financials, I'd probably point you towards Dun & Bradstreet. Whereas if you're going to do a direct mail campaign and you needed like that, the local like McDonald's, and you wanted to send them something about your company, I would basically steer you to us because you're going to see their like capital investment firm that owns them, but not the actual on-site location. Like if you're a restaurant owner and you're looking to open up a new location, if you were to use Dun & Bradstreet's database, you're going to find, you might say, oh, this is a great place to open up a restaurant. There's no restaurants right here. When in reality, there's 4 of them on this corner. So Dun & Bradstreet is the only other compiler of business and consumer information. So we're the only 2 on the market that does both. The one thing that kind of differentiates us is that we actually call all these businesses every single year to verify that the information is accurate. So last year we made, give or take, 25 million phone calls to verify the information. On top of that, we also do public filings, so Secretary of State filings, Better Business Bureau listings. We've got the most boring library in the world at Infogroup. It's got 4,400 phone books. We do the data entry, recycle, renew them every single year. And then consumer side's a whole other story. I'll get into that here in a bit. So I'm just going to do a live demo. Hopefully everyone is all caffeinated. I am here to talk about data. We've already been talking about it, so yeah. First thing I want to point out at the top is our Learning Center. So if after this presentation, you only retain 20% of what I say, that's fine. We do daily interactive webinars, which you can sign up for. If you really don't want to interact with the presenter, you just want to do it on your own time, we've got archived videos. And then lastly, we've got training guides, which will teach you how to build a prospect list, do competitive analysis, market research, etc. Then if you leave here today and you like me enough, you can always call our 1-800 line, and you can either talk to me or one of the other 20 representatives that work in our department. Primarily, I serve as an account manager, but we're also customer service representatives as well. So if you ever run into anything on the database that you have questions about, you can always call and ask us.
And TJ knows Warren Buffett.
I do. We're close friends. Go to his house every Sunday. All right, so we've got 10 detailed modules that you can choose from. B2B and B2C marketers, this is going to benefit you. I'm going to dive into U.S. business. It obviously gets most used most frequently. Most are doing B2B marketing in this room, if I remember from those raising their hands. You're going to see 2 primary functions, a quick search feature and an advanced search feature. If you're looking into your competition, you want more information on an individual business, you can search through the quick search. I'll use Conagra Brands out of Chicago, Illinois as an example. First thing that you're going to see is the name of the business, where they're located, who the CEO or the owner is, contact information. On the right-hand side, you will see this corporate tree icon and this down arrow. The down arrow represents corporate linkage, so that means that's the corporate site. They own entities underneath them. And then once you select this icon, you're going to see the hierarchy of that business. So here's Conagra Brands. They're a public company. Here's their subsidiaries, and then every single branch they own across the United States. Most immediate information you'll see is what industry they associate with. So this says that they're a food product and manufacturer. There's what they make in sales revenue every single year, and here's how many people they employ nationwide. So the branch information is going to be location-based info, sales and employee size. The corporate site is going to be representative of nationwide. Very quickly, I'm just going to, yeah, go ahead.
What can I get from ReferenceUSA that I can't get from the ConAgra.com website?
Probably their expenditures. I doubt on their website they're saying any of that information. Good question.
Number of employees.
Number of employees.
Gross revenue.
Maybe a full list of their key decision makers.
That's what I found from experience. I just made a comment that usually there's contacts on the that management contacts you'll find on ReferenceUSA that you can't normally find on the website.
Yeah, you might see a few names on the website, but we'll have probably a more detailed listing. So if we scroll all the way down, you'll see a management directory. While the C-level executives are top-level executives, these are usually the KDMs that you want to reach out to.
And how up to date are all those contracts? I would imagine you have different algorithms that can keep updating them.
Most of the information is manually inputted. We've got 350 researchers at Omaha, Nebraska. They work in the call center. They work on the quality assurance process. Every single business record in the database is updated at least once a year. So the smallest mom and pop shop, Dave's Donuts down the street, is going to get updated probably once a year. Large public companies are probably updated every month or two. So it varies depending on the record. Overall accuracy, depending on what data element you're talking about, exceeds 90%. Management directory, people move all the time. Move companies, retire, whatever it is. That's a little bit lower, but yeah, so the overall kind of trend with big data is that you can trust it in the form where if you're looking at 500 companies, the overall trend is accuracy. When you're just kind of cherry picking individual ones, it could be hit or miss.
Could a business call you, like a private one, and give you data? Do you take it from them if they wanted to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've got a website. It's called expressupdate.com.
Okay.
So this website lets you legally claim your business listing, get your information updated in ReferenceUSA free of charge. You can also do that once you find your business in ReferenceUSA by selecting data feedback. There's a legal way of going about that because we don't want Dave's Donut Shop to call in and say, oh, Steve's Donut Shop closed down. You should take them out of the database. So there's a way to ensure that that's truthful information, but yeah.
What does that mean, verified record? You have different levels on that. What does that actually mean in the ReferenceUSA world?
Great question. There's 3 separate business records: verified information, unverified or pre-verified information, and then closed and out of business. Verified just means that we're able to establish contact with the owner by phone and verify the information we compiled on them was accurate. Unverified means it went to voicemail, they didn't want to talk to us, whatever the reason was. So we're automatically going to default to verified information. It's going to be the most trustworthy information, especially if you're doing like a direct mail campaign. We want to be absolutely sure that you don't get a high return when you end up sending that mail out and you waste a bunch of money. So you can choose to look at unverified if you'd like. Just know that it's a little bit less reliable.
So how will you base your unverified on? The last contact you had with them, or just whatever was in the system from the year before, and then you just list it as unverified?
I think they cycle it through like a year. So if we're unable to establish contact by phone within a calendar year, then it becomes unverified again.
So, but it's just whatever information was there previously.
Oh, no. Like we're constantly updating through public sourcing. So we use like web mining tools. We get all their Secretary of State filings, county level public records, utility connects, disconnects, all that info we're putting into the database. It only becomes verified once we have that personal connection with them. Yeah, confirmation. A lot of people don't know this, but we actually power parts of Google, Yahoo, MSN, Bing, and AOL. So if you typed in, say, Morris County Chamber of Commerce, the information you see on the right-hand side is provided by us to Google. So the address, phone number, hours of operation, not the reviews, so if you get any bad ones, don't call me, and I'll be there for you, but I can't do anything.
Could I actually put that data into Google?
You can send it directly to Google, but we give them a mass file. They have API access, so they constantly get updates.
And that's on Express Update.
You can do that through Express Update or directly through ReferenceUSA under Data Feedback. If you've ever used Google Maps to get you from point A to point B, you're actually using our address points to get you there. If you've ever used Garmin, OnStar, TomTom, we power 90% of the in-car navigation systems as well. So there's a ton of information in the detailed record. I don't have enough time to go through all of this, but I just want you to know if you're doing competitive analysis or research on an individual company, this is going to be vital before doing outreach to them. So get to really know them, get those qualifying questions really kind of through your mind before doing that outreach. But most people who use the database are going to use it for direct mail or cold calling. Email addresses we have, but we sell it. So if you're planning to do an email campaign, we can kind of teach you or kind of walk you through the benefits of retention-based campaigns versus acquisition-based campaigns.
And can the person have the addresses or not?
Email addresses? You'd have to buy them, but they'd technically be yours after they.
You would give us the file. Okay.
Yep.
Some people don't.
We either give you the file or we'll run the campaign for you. It's up to you. And then we've got another platform that you can customize those emails and deploy them to.
Are they website email addresses, or can they be specific to, say, CEOs or?
They're always specific to the individual. We have very few like gatekeeper emails, like info@company.com. It's either going to be directly to a CEO, an owner, a purchasing executive, a marketing representative. We'll have the titles in the file.
What is the cost of doing that? If you did a sort, is it by the number of emails that come up in that sort? If you define your market for doing a direct email campaign?
Depends on what route you want to take. Like we have those three routes: the file acquisition, the deployment on our side, and then the platform subscription. But for the simple list, if you want to manage your own, it would be like a certain amount of cents on the dollar per individual email contact. The more you buy, the less each individual one will cost you. And then we do have negotiating power to make sure that it fits your budget so you get the ROI that you're looking for.
Okay. Can you just give the cliff notes on what a retention-based email campaign is and an acquisition-based?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people don't know this, and it's a struggle that we've always run into. When an individual's using like Constant Contact or MailChimp, for example, in their terms and conditions, you have to use internal data only. You cannot upload a third-party email list into Constant Contact and do deployments. Your deliverability rate is going to go down, way down. I'm not technically smart enough to know how they're able to track that, but I've heard that deliverability horror stories when they upload third-party data. So Constant Contact, MailChimp, retention-based platform, you're only delivering to current clients, newsletters, trying to upsell, acquisition, people that have never bought your products or service before. All right, so most people are going to use the business database to identify a target market of their choosing, individuals most likely to buy their products and services. So we'll run an advanced search. Everything you see on the left-hand side are all data elements that you can apply to your market. So the more data elements you check off, the smaller and more defined your market's going to become. Essentially, the warmer your sales leads are going to be. Bless you. I gave a presentation out in Lewiston, Auburn, Maine. I met with the Business Economic Council there. They were looking for ways to stimulate the local economy, and a way that they wanted to get in touch with the dairy farming industry. So they'd asked me, where are the dairy farms in New England? I thought it was a really easy example to show how to build a list in ReferenceUSA, so I'll kind of go through that. Most important thing, choosing your industry. So who's most likely to be in touch with your company? So for this sake, we'll look for dairy farms. Type in the industry, and then you'll see not only dairy farms populate, other farming services, butter wholesalers, homogenizers, anything that's similar. So we've selected off on dairy farms. Under geography, this is where you choose exactly where you're looking for those. So we'll select everyone that's in.
Can you select dairy farms and dairy farm equipment above?
Sure.
Okay.
You can select as many industries as you want. So let's say we wanted those wholesalers as well. So there's 197 dairy farms and dairy farm supply wholesalers in New England. You're going to get a list of those dairy farms, the owners, contact info. That detailed record, that big long thing that I scrolled down, you can get that exported into an Excel spreadsheet. So if you did want to load that into a mail merge format and then start sending out postcards, you could do so. Check mark the records you want, select download, choose your file format, level of detail you want to see, and then you can either download it or email it directly to yourself.
Well, let's say you wanted the email addresses for these organizations. Would we send it back to you and say, what is the estimated purchase price for those emails?
We would just run the same search that you did in an internal database.
Okay.
It's got all the emails in there.
Okay.
But can we run a search that allows us to see the email addresses and the C-suite contacts?
Nope. Nope. Not until we take your money.
All right. Just checking.
So all this information you're going to be able to see in the Excel spreadsheet. Only thing that's lacking is that email address. But you're going to see their location, expenditure reports, sales revenue, employee size, industry, key decision makers, a lot of important information. So if you want to do a personal address postcard, hello Stephanie, we're such and such, please come on in for a 10% discount, whatever. This is an easy way of going about doing it. So ReferenceUSA in its most simple form is a list building tool. Build a prospect list. We're also used for competitive analysis and market research. So I'm going to select this heat map, which Rachel showed you earlier. We'll just show you a saturation report as to where those dairy farms and suppliers are most densely located. As an example, I helped a pet store owner once upon a time identify, he was looking to open up a new location. So I helped him find where all the pet owners were in his state, and then we helped him find where all the pet stores were. Did a heat map on both, overlaid the two maps, said there's a lot of pet owners here, but no pet stores. Here's your areas of opportunity. So, yeah.
In your example, what's the parameter? Is there owned pets? Is there actually a pet ownership down in there?
Not in the business database, but it was in our consumer database, which I'll go to right after this.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting.
I'm going to zoom in. We're going to see all these pinpoint here. On the left-hand side, you'll be able to see, in terms of sales revenue, who's most successful. We'll rank them. And then you can click on any of these pinpoints to get additional information. If there's any students, we do have MLA and APA format cited. All you have to do is copy and paste. I'll backtrack here. Second most used database is our consumer database. We collect real estate information, so title and deed information on the house. We're going to know how much your household is worth, what kind of mortgage you're paying, what the estimated household income will be, demographic information. We get it through a variety of sources. But the most used function in consumers and lifestyles is going to be the lifestyle behavioral interests. So let's say you take your credit card, you go to Home Depot, you swipe it for $1,000. We'll have no idea what you bought, but we'll know you spent $1,000 at a home improvement store, at a gardening store. Our economists have an algorithm to estimate your propensity of buying products and services related to those purchases. So we'll rank each individual consumer on a scale of 0 to 9. 6 to 9 means you have a high propensity of buying those services. And then you'll show up under different lifestyle interests in the database. So if you want to do an outreach campaign to individuals most likely to buy things that you're probably selling, this is a great place to start.
But you have to know their name, though?
We'll give you the name.
No, but, I mean,
Oh, I mean, if you did a quick search.
Oh, okay, but advanced search, you don't have to.
Most important thing, contacts per household. I mean, if you're doing direct mail, always select one per household. I remember during the election season, all the local city councilmen stuff were sending mailers to my home. And I don't know, it's kind of funny as a data guy when I get 2 or 3 of them. I'm like, you didn't select one per household.
Why did your wife have her own?
These lifestyle interests are basically everything that we're tracking through purchasing. So we collect from credit card processing companies, open lines of credit, magazine subscriptions, internet purchases, you name it. Now, Rachel used the charitable donor example. So if you're running a nonprofit and you're looking to identify people who donate to charities, all you have to do is just select off on that lifestyle interest. I'll do a quick map-based search. So Google Maps is fully integrated with ReferenceUSA. If you want to draw out specific geographical parameters as to where you're looking for your market, you can do so. Let's say we just zoom in on Florham Park. So here we are. You can draw a shape, so you can literally draw out where you're looking for those individuals. You can do this in the business file as well, so keep that in mind. Double click, here's your shape. You can more simply define a radius, just click and drag the mouse. I want to find those charitable donors within a 3-mile radius. You can zoom in as far as you need to, so really you can get as granular as you want.
That's cool.
But we'll click done. Let's say we wanted 3-mile radius of, our nonprofit. We're your neighbor. We're trying to help the community. Start donating today. You can overlay that with things like household income. So if you only want those charitable donors who, make more than TJ at ReferenceUSA here. Household income, oh, wow. Let's say $250,000 or more in household income, high propensity of donating to charities. Here's your list of names, addresses, phone numbers. Do a direct mail campaign. Do outreach by cold call. Have your SAN number, so you're not, soliciting.
TJ, so your charitable donor number, does it give you guys the data that household X donated $5,000, while household Y maybe donated $50, and even though one might be rich and one might not be that rich, one's more generous than, you know what I mean? So you can just go through and see who the big donors are.
It's never going to be that specific. I think technically that's private information. The way we go about doing it, we kind of dance around the issue, I guess. So we'll rank them from 0 to 9. Anyone that shows up on this list is 6 to 9 propensity, meaning that based on their household income, it's a large amount of money to donate. what those values are, I could probably find internally, but yeah. So if you want to know more, you can always email me.
Once you log into this through your library card, will it save searches and things like that, or do you have to start from scratch every time you get on?
Good question. You can create a personalized user account, so it's an email and password login. You'll still have to go through your library system, log in with your library card, but once you log in, there will be a personal account option. Once you're signed into that, you can save searches, so you can pull that open at any time.
Is the IRS or the New Jersey Division of Taxation an information provider to ReferenceUSA?
Probably, most likely. I know we get like voter registration information from the DMV. I'm not sure if we get stuff from the IRS or if that's technically private. We get information through the banks as well. So if you've got a mortgage, we'll know how much that's for, stuff like that. That's how we get the household revenue information. So, not only is it charitable donors, but, if you do B2C marketing, all of these lifestyle interests that you see here are, up for grabs. So if you sell stylish women's apparel, you can find everyone who's spending a lot of money on stylish women's apparel. And then you can also overlay that with some of these information here. Technically, this is sensitive information, so we're not allowed to release names, addresses, and phone numbers. If you check mark any of these consumer snapshot options, all that demographic information. But you will be able to see charts and graphs like the one that Rachel showed you earlier. So male versus female versus age, propensity of donating, there was that kind of line graph. How am I doing on time? Sure. I don't have enough time, or probably enough interest even, to go through all of these modules. But just to give you a brief overview, we do collect healthcare information. Most people use it casually. So if you're looking for a doctor, dentist, physician who practices, a certain type of medicine, you can identify those in that database. It also gives you information on what insurance policies they accept, how many prescriptions they give out per week, where they graduated from med school, age, that kind of specialty healthcare information.
Why does homeowners say 0 million records?
So I think with the last update, they made a typo.
Oh.
And they need to update that. I actually just sent an email to our developers yesterday about that. So, yeah, so new movers and homeowners, we got 0 million people in there, so be sure to take advantage. That module, we've got information on people who've just moved into town. We get that through USPS.
Oh, I need that.
Utility connects, disconnects, magazine rerouting. We'll know they just moved in. So if you want to do a welcome campaign, welcome to the community, come on into our store. You get a 10% discount. You get a 10% discount. Canadian information, if you do business in Canada, we've got business information, consumer information in Canada. New businesses that have opened up in the past 2 years. There's going to be a little bit of overlap between U.S. business and U.S. new business. We just chose to make a new module to kind of isolate those businesses that just open. You can choose the time frame.
They'll need more services, yeah.
Yeah. Security, insurance, contractors, floors, roofers, you name it.
Your definition of new is within the last 12 months?
2 years.
2 years, did you say? Okay, thank you.
It's updated weekly, so you can look for businesses that opened up 1 week ago or a month ago. Okay. You choose the time frame.
Is it just opened up, or is it moved to the area as well?
Great question. I am not sure. I think it's just moved to the area too, so like if it's an already existing business, but just moved locations, I think it shows up in there.
So does the new business show when they opened up, or it doesn't give you a date? Does it say open April 2017, or it just says within the last 2 years?
They'll give you an incorporation date.
Want to show us your file?
Sure. Yeah. All right, so new business is pretty simplistic. The information is not going to be nearly as in-depth as the U.S. business. For businesses that just opened up, we really just got their licensing information. So let's say you wanted to know all businesses that opened up in Florham Park. You scroll down under time range, under the date range. It's going to default to the last 6 months, but you choose. So let's say all businesses within the last month. Here's those businesses. So we'll give you industry information and then some of their filing types, but I mean, it's pretty limited. Most people use it for cold calling, showing up right on their doorstep.
And that's you said newly opened businesses right there, not newly moved.
I think it's both, but I'll need to confirm that. I'm not really sure. I know the chambers use this for membership drives. A lot of insurance or landscapers or people who security systems, anyone who needs to get in touch with a brand new business are going to use that as well. Last one that's probably worth talking about is historical business. We've been compiling information since the early 70s, but we started saving it on a server in 2003. In the historical business module, you'll be able to see market trends over time. So if you're planning on opening up a beauty salon, you want to see what the success ratio of beauty salons are since 2003. You can see the open and close rate, what's the stagnation ratio on that industry in particular locations. Choose as many industries as you want. You can compare and contrast them with possible competition, and then just kind of see the growth or decline of that industry. So is it wise to open up a beauty salon, a bar, a wholesaler of this or that, when the general trend is declining? Maybe not. So definitely use our charts and graphs features. The visualizations will tell you a story. The listing will be great for outreach, but the visualizations will really tell you something about the data.
Is it obvious how to get to your charts and graphs?
Maybe. I mean, at the top of the list, there's a button that says charts.
Oh, okay, that's obvious.
Sure. So I'm just going to do this in business. It's a little bit easier. I actually had a solution to that problem when you said you had a overage of physicians and surgeons. The first thing I'd do is probably scroll down to the bottom under special selects. You'll see this option says professionals all/1. So technically anyone who files for a business license, like a doctor, an insurance agent, lawyer, they're technically one business, and there might be 8 lawyers in a law firm, 20 doctors in a hospital, so on and so forth. So if you select one professional, you're only going to get that one individual there. If you wanted a fair representation of, say, what the community looked like in Parsippany, 2,320 businesses. Up here, you select that charts option.
Okay.
And then this will give you that overview of what the most popular industries are in the city.
And you can download that to like Excel or something?
You can download this or print it. I think it goes to a PDF or an image format.
Okay.
Full report is down here, so you'll see which industries are most popular in your community. You can choose whatever geography you want, really. Sales revenue or employee size will give you kind of a breakdown of what the revenue is of that company.
What is switch to MLA format?
Oh gosh, I know I'm young, but it's been a while since I've been in school. This is just citing your sources if you're writing a research paper.
Ah.
Yeah, MLA or APA.
Ah.
People from the colleges are probably laughing at me.
We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have any questions for Tuesday? Back here? This is cool.
Rachel, I'll turn it back to you.
All right.
It gives you an opportunity. But great, all this information, right? So now what, right? You either have a marketing staff with your company, which is a lot of small businesses. So it's both of you. How do you turn all this information into actually being proactive with it versus leaving here and just going to the recycling bin a month from now when I clean my desk?
Sounds like she's got a better handle on strategy than I do. I ask very basic marketing questions when people call into the 1-800 line. Who's your typical customer? How much do they spend? How did they hear about your business? Are you doing any marketing right now? After hearing all the answers to those questions, I usually point them in, what I would think is an ideal solution.
Okay. So you guys will do that if it's really a one-on-one, and then you probably can take it a step further than that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer that the more strategic you are with the marketing, on average, let me back up. On average, it takes 7 to 9 or 7 to 11 touches to reach your audience, depending on the industry. And a touch can be a direct mail campaign, an email campaign, shaking somebody's hand at a sales meeting, them going to your website. A successful marketing strategy is going to strategically integrate all of those touches over time to drive a return on your investment and build your brand. So it's really hard for me to say, I think you should do a direct mail campaign. Good luck with that. I'll talk to you later. I would consider, bringing in a strategist, like it doesn't have to be, there's a ton of strategists in the chamber, to even just consult with you on a quarterly basis to give you ideas on what your goals are and how to achieve them. So you can say, okay, in quarter 1, based on the target audience and our outreach strategy, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then you can use the data to accomplish those goals, I guess would be my best suggestion.
Really depends on your budget, too. I mean, companies with these big budgets do these multifaceted marketing campaigns where they're hitting you with digital advertising. They're doing geofencing, so if you're sitting outside of your competitor's shop when you're on your phone, you get advertisements for your shop. And then you do email campaign, postcard campaign. So you're literally hitting them at all angles, so all they can think about is you. They finally buy your product, but that can end up being pretty expensive. So yeah, it just depends on budget too.
TJ, there were 2 questions on the webinar. While I left my post, they came up, so I apologize for the people. But you mentioned, well, somebody was curious, like, what if you're outside New Jersey? You probably answered that, but I guess if you want to reiterate, like, what people would do, like, if they want access to this information that they're not in the state.
If you are outside the state of New Jersey, not every library will subscribe to ReferenceUSA. You can call us to see if your local library subscribes to us. And if they don't, you might have to buy a subscription to us or find a neighboring library that might have access. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction.
And you mentioned earlier, and I don't know if you remember, but like you mentioned there was a company similar to Info Group. Was that Dun & Bradstreet? Yeah, okay.
Dun & Bradstreet is a similar company to us.
Okay.
We also have someone from the Small Business Administration here today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Sussbridge. I work for the U.S. Small Business Administration as a business opportunity and economic development specialist. I don't want to take too much time in the presentation, but if anybody has any questions or like to see me about any of our free resources that we offer, access to capital, counseling, or contracting within the federal government, big business, 500 billion, so don't think that your business may not fit in there. Pretty much every business does. So if you have any questions, I'll be around afterwards.
Thank you. And then lastly, we have a great event coming up on November 3rd. We hope that you can join us. It's our Annual Business Growth and Innovation Forum. So there's a flyer in front of you. And thank you all for being here today. We hope that you really enjoyed it and got a lot out of the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you.
And please take